Good afternoon, dear students, especially to grade 11. Welcome to Physical Education class for quarter 3. So we will start from Module 1. It's about the role of physical activity assessment in managing one's stress. Specifically, our lesson for today is about the introduction of sports and its nature. So we have the following objectives. So at the end of the lessons, you should be able to describe the different types of sports under its categories and its nature. And then the second objective is have awareness on how the different categories of sports are being played. Let us start with the definition of terms. First is, what is sports? Sports is an activity that requires physical actions and skills where individuals or teams compete under the set of rules. Now we have here the classification of sports. The first one is individual, dual, or team sports. So what is individual sport? It is a sport in which participants compete as individuals. Next is a dual sport. So what is dual sport? Is played by two people striving against for one another. And then the next definition is team sport. A team sport is a sport competed between two teams and each with two or more players. So we have three classification of sports: the individual sport, dual sport, and team sport. Now let us proceed to the types of sports. So we have the ball sports, strength and combat sports, endurance and track sports, and water, snow, and ice sports. So we have four types of sports here. We have the ball sports, strength and combat sports, endurance and track sports, and the fourth one is water, snow, and ice sports. So let us discuss first what is ball sports. The ball sports, it is a type of sport involving the use of balls. So what are the examples of sports that are using balls? So there are three categories of this sport. So under the ball sports, we have three categories. The first category is a ball sports that use the ball only. The second category is the ball sports that use ball and a stick or a bat. And the fourth is a ball sports that uses ball over the net. So there are three categories of this sport under the ball sports. The first one is the ball only. Next is ball and a stick or a bat. And then the third is ball over the net. We have here an example of the ball only. We have the basketball, soccer or football. Then the next one is bowling. We also have the paddle ball, handball, and the table tennis. So these are some of the classification of the ball only. So under the ball sports. Then another one, example of ball sports that is played over the net. Okay, so we have here the ball sports that played over the net. First is tennis. Next is the badminton. Then water polo. And then we have the pickleball and the volleyball game. So the ball is played over the net. So these sports also are under the ball sports. The next type of sports is the strength and combat sports. So these are sports that involves strength and fighting. So we have here an example of sports that are strength based include we have the bodybuilding. Yan, makikita nyo po sa picture sa ating FB Live na ng mga nanonood ngayon. And then we also have another example. We have the weightlifting and the powerlifting. So these are some examples of sports that are strength based. Then we also have the combat sports. So we have here an example of combat sports, boxing. One of the famous boxer is Manny Pacquiao, of course from Philippines. Then we also have the ultimate fighting or the kung nanonood kayo po ng UFC, so that is the ultimate fighting. Then we also have the wrestling and the ancient martial arts such as jujutsu or jujitsu. Next we have the karate and taekwondo. And then we also have here an example of combat sports that allow or and use weapons. We have the kendo and fencing. Okay, so these are the example of the combat sports that allow and use weapons. Now another type of sports is the endurance and track sports. So let us start with these track sports. We have here an example of track sports, marathons, sprints, relays, long jump, and high jump. We also have the javelin throwing, pole vault, and discus throw, which are some can be played either by a single person or by a team. So these are examples of the track sports. Now we also have here the mountain biking, road cycling, the BMX, track cycling, and cyclocross are also included in the track sports. So those are the examples of the track sports. How about the endurance sports? In endurance sports, we have what we call the duathlon. Duathlon examples are biking and running. So that's under the duathlon. Next, we have the biathlon. Biathlon, we have the skiing and shooting. So the first one example is the skiing, and the other one is shooting, that is biathlon. Next is triathlon. For the triathlon, examples we have the swimming, biking, and running. That's under the endurance sports. Now we also have the decathlon, which consists of running, long jump, and high jump, hurdling, throwing, such as javelin throw, discus throw, and shot put. Or these are under the decathlon. Another type of sports, we have the water, snow, and ice sports. So these are sports that associated with the elements of water, snow, and ice. So let's have an example of water sports. We have swimming or synchronized swimming, diving. Then we have also the wakeboarding, surfing, sailing, and rowing. So these are under the water sports. Okay, now let's have the ice sports. So sports which can be played on the ice. We have the popular ice hockey, figure skating or speed skating, and the last one is the curling. So these are the examples of sports that can be played on the ice. Under the snow sports are snowboarding, skiing, sledding, luge, skeleton, and bobsled or bobsleigh, and ski bopping. So these are the examples of snow sports. Now we are done with our lessons. Let us review. So what is sports? Sports is an activity that requires physical actions and skills where individuals or teams compete under the set of rules. So we have three classification of sports, or sports is classified into individual sport, dual sport, and team sport. So the individual sport is a sport which participants compete as individuals. In dual sport is played by two people striving against for one another. And then the third one is the team sport, a sport competed between two teams and each with two or more players. And then we also have the different types of sports. What are those? We have the ball sports, strength and combat sports, endurance and track sports, water, snow, and ice sports. So under the ball sports, we have the three categories: the ball only, the ball and a stick or a bat, and the third category is the ball over the net. For strength and combat sports, we have the sports that are strength based and also the combat sports and the ancient martial arts. And then we have the water, snow, and ice sports. Okay, so we have different sports that can be played in water, and snow, and on the ice. Now, before we end our lesson, we will have our activity. So let us see how you will remember the different nature of sports that would help you to enhance your knowledge with different types of sports. The direction: identify the following sports if they are classified as ball sports, combat sports, or track sports. So what are you going to do is to write the capital letter BS for ball sports, and then capital letter CS for combat sports, and capital letter TS for track sports. So write your answers on your paper. So you can submit your answer through Messenger, or you can send it together with your learning activity sheets. So you can write it on your paper and then submit it together with your learning activity sheets. Okay, so number one, for those who are listening on the radio, so you're going to identify the following sports if they are classified as ball sports, combat sports, and track sports. Number one is Taekwondo. Again, number one, Taekwondo. Number two, volleyball. Again, number two, volleyball. Number three, table tennis. Number three, table tennis. Number four, running. Four, running. Number five, triple jump. Again, for number five, triple jump. Number six, cycling. Number 6, cycling. Number 7, sumo wrestling. 7, sumo wrestling. Number 8, badminton. Number number 8, badminton. Number 9, billiards. 9, billiards. Number 10, pole vault. Number 10, pole vault. 11, boxing. 11, boxing. Number 12, discus throw. Number 13, judo. 13, judo. 14, arnis. 14, arnis. Number 15, jujutsu. 15, jujutsu. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have learned something for today. And this is your teacher Beth saying thank you and goodbye.